Welcome back, ladies. Welcome to another episode of the Strong Women series. I am thrilled to have one of my closest friends, Justine Nuñez, on the call today. She is a licensed practical nurse, but she's also taking her show on the road, and she's going to be going on an epic missions trip, which we're going to hear all about in a little bit. But Justine, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing pretty good, all things considered. I've got my health and I have good company, so I'm pretty good. Pretty good. Are you feeling rested? I know that you have been working like crazy during this time.
I think I'm just getting my sleep when I can get my sleep. I feel okay. I do miss just sleeping for a very long time, you know?
Thank you for everything that you're doing out in the hospitals and working there. I know that it is absolutely crazy right now. Um, I have known Justine for almost 6 years, 5, 6 years, something like that, coming around there. We met at Hillsong as well, and we developed a really strong friendship, in part because she started running a connect group with me. She was my co-lead for a little while, but also because she just moved in. She just brought her stuff one day, and then she just never left. And so she was my roommate for a year, and actually probably one of the hardest years of my life. She was living there, so sorry about that. Must have been crazy, but but yeah, we developed a really strong friendship during that time. And one of the things that I just always admired about you, and I remember about you during that time, was like you had this yearning for God. Even though some things weren't making sense, you like pursued Him passionately, and you are a prayer warrior, like for real. Like I remember, I have like vivid memories of us like waking up at 2 in the morning randomly and be like, we need to pray, and like just praying down the house. So I just remember that, and we actually have been through a lot in our friendship too. We took a big kind of pause in our friendship and went our separate ways, but I am so grateful that we connected again this year, and that I love everything that you're doing now, and I'm excited for what God's doing in your life. So hey girl, hey.
Yeah, I remember like when we met, I was kind of just a little confused about certain theologies and certain things about the walk. And I felt like it was such a God moment that we were brought together like that. Because I remember going to your place and I sat on your couch and I was like, I have this feeling that I have to move here. Like it was such a God time, you know? And you're like, I'm looking for a roommate. I was like, shut up. And then I literally just moved in and I never left. But living with you for those like, I think that was like almost a year, 2 years, a year and a half, right? That really like laid the foundation of like God's word versus like what I grew up knowing as a Catholic, like it definitely like just changed the whole perspective of who God was for me and how he is so much more personal than like a faraway God.
That's so awesome. I always get like so nervous. I used to say this to people too, because I've had throughout like the years, I've had a couple of roommates come in while I was still living in Jersey, and I was like really worried because at church at the time I was leading. I was a leader, and coming home for me was my time to kind of like let the hair go crazy. And Justine actually just sent me some crazy videos of my of me dancing. Maybe I'll post them in this. We'll see.
Your love is taking over me. Your love is taking over.
She just sent me some crazy videos and moments that I just don't even remember, like being able to kind of just let my hair down. So I think you got to see a side of me that most people did not see there. But hey, tell me a little bit about your name. Let's jump in. Do you like your name? What does it mean? Tell me everything.
So my name is Justine. A little story about that actually is I'm adopted, right? So my two sisters, their name starts with an E, which follows after my dad's name. And when they adopted me, my aunt, who actually raised me too, she's like my second mom, she decided that to bring honor to my mom, that I should have a name that starts with a J, because her name is Juliana. So they chose Justine. My aunt was actually the one who named me after my mom. And it's kind of great because there's such like two main women in my life that were so involved in that. But I've never liked my name. I feel like it was such a weird name because I'm Filipino and they just can't get the pronunciation right. They're just like Justine, Justine. Like it's just like it's so hard to like just pronounce like Justine. You know, like I was like, no, 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 like not too hard, just softly, like Justine. Um, and I never really liked it. It was just like a name that no one ever got. And it's such a rough name that like even the nicknames were rough. Like just like you know. But then I did look it up. So it means like fairness and righteousness. Um, which I feel like God is moving me into that season where it could really like hopefully be who I am one day, you know, like to be fair and just. And yeah, we'll see. I'm starting to like it slowly, very slowly. Like I
I love
don't.
I feel like it's got a nice way. Maybe my name is Maxine. They kind of rhyme, Justine, Maxine. You know, like
It was great when we had connect because it just rhymed all the time.
come
Yeah.
here, we rhyme. We've got it together. So you have had an incredible journey with God, and I want to hear all about it. I want people to hear about it. I know about it, but
Yeah.
walk us through what that's been like for you.
Um, well, I was saved at such an early age, and I came from a background of being Catholic, like I said before. So I didn't really know what it was like to have a personal relationship with a close God. You know, I kind of just sat in the pews and let the priest handle the closeness. And I never realized that revelation of God's love, you know? So when I was saved, it was like a high, you know, like when you're saved and you're like, yeah, like I'm saved by the blood of Christ and stuff. But it was such a young age. And it was just, now that I look back at it, it was so intentional of God to save me then than to save me like how people are saved when they're like, you know, older. Because I went through such a tough season for the past like I don't know, like 10 years, I want to say, 10 plus years. So um, I lost both my parents, as you know, when I was younger. And I feel like that just made me kind of be like Job, you know, like kind of just question God's glory, kind of question his faithfulness, and really just kind of like confused at like why God would be so unfair, you know? But it's funny that even when we don't feel like God is with us, like he's always like protecting us and guiding us. And so I had a rough few years after I was saved. I definitely kind of got so confused with God's love. You know, I didn't understand it so much that we don't know what it's like until we've like passed that journey and you're like looking back and I'm just like, wow, like God really helped me through like you know, like there was never a time when I was hungry. There was never a time when I didn't have a roof over my head. I remember before I even came to Hillsong, I was going through severe depression. And at that time, I've kind of turned my back on God because I felt like, well, how can a God that claims to love me so much, like, let me go through all the hardship that I went through? And I remember one of the times that before I came to Hillsong, actually, I was going through like suicidal thoughts and I felt God just meet me there. And he was like, hey, I love you. Like, let me show you what it means for me to love you. Let me show you a new family that will show you like my unconditional love. And that was when I met you. I met Becca, I met Erica, I met all these amazing women that just like poured in so much love for me. And I felt like God has been kind of guiding me towards this release, this exodus of just like, come follow me. Let me show you like my provision, you know, like, so it's been kind of a crazy journey, honestly. It's been like, I feel like I don't know. It's like a movie, really, just seeing and being able to really rely on God and just sit on his word and just see him move other people's hearts and soften them. Because I feel like I was also there, you know, like where my heart was so hard and my trust was so low and my walls were up. And I feel like God is just showing me like provision, faithfulness, a new image of who I am in his name that I'm still trying to figure out, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things about you, like when I, there was a pause there, and I think a lot of the women I've spoken to, they had this, they were saved and then they kind of never looked back. And it was one of those kind of stories. But there are women that had your story, right? So they were saved and then you actually stepped away again, even after this walk. Do you want to talk just a little bit about that and how kind of God brought you back again?
My gosh, yeah. So after I came to Hillsong, I felt him moving me at a pace that I wasn't comfortable of shedding my own life yet. Like I was like, yeah, God, like I totally love you, but I'm still holding on to all these things that I love too. Like these worldly things that I was still like treasuring above and putting above the pedestal above him. So it was hard for me to, you can't serve two masters at once, as we say. So I did walk away from Hillsong again. And I just went into my life trying to figure it out myself, and God has been, God has called me to missions since I was 15. And this was something that, as you know, like I was fighting so hard to not go because it's a full surrender, it really is. And I wasn't ready. So after I left Hillsong, I actually went to live my life the way I lived my life. I became a nurse, not because of my passion, but because it was something that I was good at, and it just turns into that. Like it's kind of just like a gift, not really your purpose, but a gift. And so I remember one day, this so well, one day I was so busy with my life. I was partying, I was making good money, I was like balling and being bougie. And then one day I just had nothing to do, like nothing. And I literally sat on my couch and I was gonna turn on the TV, but I didn't. And I just felt God whisper to me, wake up. And it was such a voice that I haven't heard in years, like I literally sat there and I was like, and I remember describing it to you before, like when it's the middle of winter and it's cold outside and you're inside your room, like, and you open that front door and the cold air just hits you. It was like being splashed by like cold water. And before, like when I stepped away from church, from my walk with Jesus, it was like a very sweet coming out and like trying to get me back in, like like he really did search for me, like that lost sheep out of the 99, like he did. But this time when he searched for me, he was like, let's go, girl, like it's enough. And it was such a revelation. It really did feel like there was a veil that was covering my eyes, and I forgot like the promises and the love of God and the community and the love of the sisterhood that I had. Like it was so hard to kind of digest. It definitely took me a while, and I was crying like ugly cry in my living room floor. I was like kneeling, and I was like, I don't know what happened. And I feel like that's such a testimony for a lot of Christians, like we walk away, we think we're going to take one step further away from Jesus, and it ends up to be like years of step further from Jesus, But the one thing that he's been so graceful with me is like redeeming old friendships that I damaged, like, and kind of giving me grace through it. And just like being able to come back to Hillsong. And I remember the first time I came back, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna be like, why is that girl here? But really, like the moment I walked in, it was just such an outpouring of love that I haven't like had in so long. Like just the love of Jesus is so hard to ignore. I feel like you have to consciously ignore it and make that active decision to like be like, this doesn't exist. Like, or else like it's so hard to ignore. So I remember the first day I walked into Hillsong, I was kind of like, okay, Jesus, like I was like, okay, I need to be in a church that's like Bible based and spirit based, and I need to be in a loving church. And but I remember that first service, I was asking God for a Holy Spirit filled church, and I definitely received a Holy Spirit filled church. Yeah, I was like, whoa, I was shook.
Something that I just truly, truly, honestly admire is that, yes, you came back, but you didn't come back and then try to sweep everything under the rug. You came back and you faced everything. Like, you faced everything. I know that you reached out to me and kind of just owning that season that you were in and not sweeping it under the rug. And I think that obedience in you is part of that grace, part of that grace that you've received to be able to have these friendships again. And I think that's so huge. That willingness to accept responsibility shows maturity, right? It shows that you've grown and growth, even though it was such a quick turnaround time for you to come back. Like, honestly, it meant so much to me because I did value our friendship so much. And so for you to come back in that way, I was like, oh man, God's hand is all over this. And I cannot wait to see what God is going to be doing in your life. So I want to personally just thank you for being obedient, for taking responsibility and then coming back home. Welcome back. It's amazing.
Yeah. So the thing is, God was also showing me, like, I know you were like in the world, and I know that because I was feeling like I was seeing like our friends and they grew so much, and I'm just like, wow, these amazing women have just grown with Jesus and they're walking their faith, and I love that they're like, their heart is in their purpose. Like, and I remember telling God, I was like, look how much time I wasted, because I feel like that's the human in us when we backslide, that like you kind of like try to come back and you're just like, oh my gosh, I lost so much time. Like, the shame just creeps in, and God is like, I am a God of redemption. Like, let me just show you how I'm going to restore everything. So like, I thought like when I would come back that we would start from the beginning. Because, like type A, you have to go from the beginning to the end in one sweep. And God was like, no, like, we're going to start exactly where we left off. Like, and then I'm just going to show you where we're going to go from there on, which has been like so crazy.
So talk to me a little bit about that. Talk to me a little bit about returning to kind of your purpose and how you're deciding to, or how God has put it on your heart to walk it out.
Oh man. So I think obedience is absolutely the first thing. He gives us a mission and we always question it. How like when God called Moses and he was just like, hey, Moses, like, this is your mission. And Moses was like, but why me? Like, I feel like I was in that but why me like stage for so long. And then when we acknowledge like God's purpose and we just go with it, it's like a whole nother world opens. So like I said before, like he put in my heart the heart for missions when I was like 15. And I had no idea what that meant. I was raised Catholic. Missionaries were like weird people, like they were like living in the wild. And I'm like, really, God? Like, my bougie self, I'm gonna go to the wild? I didn't understand it. But the more I like read about it and the more that I just followed and read his word, the calling really just like, you couldn't ignore it. And so he basically told me when I was younger to go to Africa, right? That was like so clear in my heart that he placed, like, go to Africa. And so when I came back to church, to Hillsong, I remember I was like doing my devos, I was reading my Bible, and I felt him whisper it again, go to Africa. And it was such a slight whisper that you could like almost miss it. But then I know him because he's been whispering it for so long. And I remember I was at work that day and I was just like, okay, you want me to go? You have to show me where, how are we gonna get there, what organization, because there's so many mission trip organizations everywhere. And he's a God that answers prayers, because that moment Overland Missions just came up on my Facebook, which I know nothing about them. Their ad just came up and I clicked it. And one of the things that I really wanted when I was going to partner up with an organization was I wanted it to be Bible based strictly and, you know, spirit led. And that's everything that they are, you know. They just really are just about the people who are unreached to like be able to hear about Jesus. And this whole thing happened. And I remember I was like, oh, okay, like they have different expeditions, like for a week. I could go for a week, like a week is fine. I'll take off for a week, go to Africa, come back, live my best life. And God was like, no. And I was like, what? And he goes, scroll down. And I scrolled down and it said 2 weeks. And I was like, I could totally do 2 weeks. 2 weeks in Africa, sure, come back. And then he was like, no, scroll down. And it said 1 month. And I was like, I mean, I guess I could do 1 month. Like, I'm sure that my job will let me go for a month and I can still pay for it by myself and, like, you know, not worry. You know, like, I was still thinking as, like, how I would provide for God's trip, you know, and then I ended up, he was like, no, and I ended up scrolling down and it said 3 months. And like all the excitement of obeying him, like went out the door. I was really like staring at the computer, like 3 months, like that's a long time. That's a season, like. And I was really like, I seriously stared at that computer screen for so long, and I know God is probably like laughing at me, like you know, like. um, but I applied. I kind of just brushed it off, and I applied, and then after my application went in, I was like, all right, I obeyed. You know, I just obeyed. They're probably not gonna call me back. All you, Jesus. So they didn't call me back for a while. And then I wanna say like a month after I applied, they did. I wanna say, I'm not sure. But it was such an amazing interview. It felt like so peaceful. I was able to talk to Erica, and she basically just laid down what it was, you know, and who I was. They were really trying to figure out, like, not that if I can go on the trip, but if I was fit spiritually to like partner with them, which I think is so good because it just shows like you're after the heart of someone developing this walk with Jesus, you know? So I ended up doing that, and they were like, we're gonna call you back and you'll hear from us. I did not hear from them. So I automatically thought like I didn't get in. It was already February. I planned it out in my head already, Max. I was like, okay, like I'm gonna save for this trip if I get in. But I didn't hear from him. So I felt like I'm just gonna fall out and be bougie and not plan this, you know? And it's so intentional because the moment they called and they said I got in, I literally had to sit there again, and I was like, this is just, it's gonna take God's provision. Like God was really like, I know you, I know you're type A, I know you're gonna try to like plan my purpose and you're gonna try to like take control of it, but let me, your provider, your father, take you on the purpose I gave for you, you know, like, so yeah, that's it. I'm going to Africa for 3 months.
You are going to Africa for 3 months. And so Justine is a little nervous about saying it, so I'm gonna say it. But so part of this is raising the funds to actually be able to go on this missions trip. And I know you were telling me, you know, you were wanting to kind of figure out how you could save it for yourself. But part of this was God again saying, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna provide. And so kind of taking that leap of faith and starting a page to try to raise the funds. I know I'm the same way. I hate like asking for money and donations, but you know, I did it last round for Bravely Rise. I stepped out on faith and God gave me a number and he said, just put it out there, and we got it. We made it. And we had the most beautiful retreat that we've ever had. Bravely Rise because of the donations that came in. So I'm going to plug Justine's page. You're going to see the link pop up in just a moment there. And if you have it on your heart to give, to donate to what Justine is going to go, she's going to Africa for 3 months to spread the word. And, you know, the Bible really talks about this, right? It says to go and make disciples of all nations. And so while all of us might not be called to go to Africa, where in Africa are you going, by the way?
I'm going to Zambia,
Um,
actually.
okay, so
Culture in this Africa.
while all of us might not be called to go to Zambia or to another country, we can do our part. We can help people who are going, and we can help by both donations, right, money, sending actual physical money, but also for continuing praying over them, right? They're going into spiritual warfare. They're going over to help win souls, to tell people about the gospel, and there's a lot that goes into that. So one, keep her and her team that's going over there in prayer. When do you leave?
August 23rd.
August
I want
20th.
to say
Awesome.
August 23rd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So keep them in prayer, but also if you have the means, feel free to hit that link and donate. And everything makes a difference. So don't sit there and think, well, I can't give $1,000. I can't give 100. No, you're $1, you're $2, you're $3, whatever. I mean, if you have more, give more. But that also helps out as well. So I'm excited for this trip, and I know that you were telling me even about the community that you started kind of meeting with and how incredible they were. So I'm excited to get you back on this once you come back from your missions. But
Oh my
just
gosh.
that crazy obedience has been just absolutely beautiful to see. So good on you, girl.
Ah, it's kind of crazy because I felt like God was always calling me to love on women. I remember I told you this, that I felt like he was revealing this purpose of just like being able to spiritually be there for women in third world countries. I feel like he was revealing to me like the men are like the head of the household, but really women are the spine. So the household, it's not going to work with a broken spine. And I feel like because in these third world countries, women are valued so differently than they are here, that they do deserve, like, first the word of God to show them that, we are equal in being loved by Jesus as a man would be loved. And also like, in my heart is just like being able to be there for them spiritually, and see their growth, like to see like transformations of generations, because as women, we are the seed, like we are part of the seed that changes our generations. Like from you comes your son, your daughter, and from them comes like their son and their daughter. And I feel like God is really trying to show us what he showed Abraham, that he is the God of generation, that he is a God that like will absolutely cover us with grace from now till like the coming of Jesus again.
You better preach, girl. You better preach. So good. So we're going to close out here, but before we do, I just wanted to know if you have any recommendations of books that we should know about, or a podcast we should listen to, or a TV show you really love, anything like that.
Oh, The Chosen. I have been watching The Chosen, and I was kind of like, I heard people like, ugly crying after watching it, and I was such a boss, like I was not crying, and I was like, oh, my heart hurts, but no tears. And let me tell you, that last episode, because I'm rewatching that last episode, I literally was like ugly crying. Like I was crying for an hour, just like praising Jesus. Like it just shows such a different perspective of culture, of how like how the underlying stories of it are in the Bible. I'm not saying that it's like 100% biblical, but you get the picture of it, like, but The Chosen, absolutely.
Love it. Yeah, I'm also obsessed. For a while, I was just sending the link to people, like, just watch it, it's just good, just trust me. And I cried episode 1, so I did not make it as long as you. I cried the Mary scene where he called her by the name. I was not. I was lost. It was a wrap. Whatever. Amazing. Hey, Justine, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and just like being open and vulnerable and transparent. We are praying for you on your mission trip and this journey, and I can't wait to hear about it at the end of this. So thank you again. Don't forget to hit subscribe on our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram at strongwoman_of_God. Until next week, take care. We'll see you. Bye.